Hi, Luna.
Hi. I was born in Mexico, but I grew up in Canada. And then when I was 21, I came to Japan to do exchange. I thought the work culture was really terrible. I wasn't expecting to stay. I didn't even do job hunting in Japan. I felt like I really loved Tokyo, but like a lot of ways Tokyo didn't love me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Yellow Curtain. I am Jess, and if this is your first time, welcome. It's our season 2, and this time I invite many of my friends to be on my couch, and we're gonna talk through their journeys, their stories, their experiences, how they get here, and then what are some challenges and what are some interesting chapters of the episode in their lives, and then we'll go from there. So this time, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Luna. Hi, Luna.
Hi. So good to be here, Jess.
I know. You're like a Taebang of my podcast.
I was in season 1, right?
Yeah, you were in season 1 finale, and this time you're in season 2. So I love having you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
I was as Andromeda last time.
Yes.
Now I'm as Luna.
You're Luna. So before we dive in, I'm going to ask you the golden question, which is, where are you from?
I was born in Mexico, but I grew up in Canada. So I was born in Mexico City, and then my parents immigrated to Canada when I was 2. And then I was there for 20 years, did my university. I'm going back and forth between both countries. And then when I was 21, I came to Japan to do exchange. I really liked it. I entered fashion school here in Tokyo. And then I somehow by accident found a job. And now it's been almost 10 years that I'm here. So yeah,
wow,
it's been a journey.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about like your background and you know how the like different growth that you went through, and then up to this point, and then you know like that was our focus in the last season. This time, let me backtrack, and I want to ask you why in the beginning you decided to move to Japan in the first place.
So I had been studying Japanese since I was like 8 years old because my mom put me in Japanese lessons for absolutely no reason. Like my English teacher was Japanese Canadian.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, well, could you teach my kid after school like Japanese to like kill time kind of thing? And I mean, I probably also liked Sailor Moon. So like it was like, she was perfect.
Yeah.
And then I did that for like 2-3 years. I quit. And then in university, I did East Asian Studies and Economics as my major. And you have to learn a language. And then I wanted to go on exchange. So I was like, well, I'm already learning Japanese again. And then if I have to go on exchange, I would like to practice my Japanese.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of thing that brought me here at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't planning on staying that long, to be honest. But I just like really enjoyed living here a lot. And I like the safety and the cleanliness and everything. So. Okay. Yeah.
Wait, why would you? So because you were, it sounds like it ever since you were little. Besides the by accident you got put into Japanese class.
Mom. I mean, thank you, but so unexpected.
Yeah, it's like such an afterthought.
I know.
I would imagine like someone that has a similar experience would imagine themselves to stay here for long. Why would you think like you probably wouldn't stay here for long after all that work?
I thought so. Like when I came on exchange, I really liked it, but then when I went to fashion school, I thought the work culture was really terrible. So I wasn't expecting to stay. I didn't even do job hunting in Japan. Like it was the end of my like studies, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go home in like 2 months. And then 2 things happened. So thing 1, I found a partner, which kind of changes everything, right? So I started dating someone while I was a student, and kind of all of a sudden I didn't want to leave because they were also based in Tokyo. And then number 2 is my friend introduced me to someone who was like, my friend's like starting a fashion company. Do you want to join? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So that kind of just, I went to have coffee with this guy, and I was like the second employee of the company. And I just kind of ended up staying there for quite long. And I actually kind of thought it was nice because I didn't want to go into the Japanese system through like a Japanese work environment, which I think like inevitably because of like gender, background, like everything, like I think I'm just too different to fit into one smoothly.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh, if it's like sort of like an open-minded Japanese, like an open-minded fashion company that's like more like, you know, doing things modernly.
Yeah, more
I
fluid.
could do it. Yeah.
Yeah, culturally fluid.
Exactly. So then that kind of like made me think it was doable to stay for this long.
Can you break it down a little? I kind of am curious. Not my first time hearing it, but I'm very curious how you kind of discover different sides of Japan in societal wise, and then when you're at work, and then you said you one of the reason you felt maybe it's gonna be pretty short lived is because of the culture or the working culture. Like, can you talk more about that?
So I really integrated myself a lot into the Japanese like culture because I had been able to speak Japanese since I was little and had been studying it. Like a lot of my friends were Japanese. A lot of my friends in university and in the fashion school were Japanese, and I was in like the Japanese like dance club. Like I was doing very like traditional, like typical things. So one of the good things, I discovered a lot of like the how do you say, like mainstream, like the mainstream things that people in Japan do, because I was kind of like trying very hard to integrate. And I think at the time it was also wanting to fit in to somewhere. So I was like, oh, I really wanted to like learn the Japanese way of doing everything. And then when I went to Bunka and I was like seeing, like Bunka is a fashion school, but it's a very traditional fashion school. Like at least the vocational side of it, not the university side. I have no idea what that is, but the vocational side is very dedicated to like making people learn how to get a job and be good at the job, rather than like, you know, I think when you think fashion school and abroad, it's like creativity and Alexander McQueen and like you're like
you
drawing
gotta experience to create.
No, here it's really like they're counting the stitches on your garments to make sure that you can sew according to like the diagram and everything. So I was like, wow, this is a very like, I was like, even if even in fashion school things are so strict, like there's no way for me to fit in. But then also I was like discovering the queer culture in Tokyo a lot, like going to Nichome, which is like the queer area in Shinjuku. And that was really hard because I wanted to fit in as well, but I wasn't fitting in with like gay men in Nichome either. So I don't know, it was like I felt like I really loved Tokyo, but like a lot of ways Tokyo didn't love me, which I think is a common experience. But eventually you find like your little pockets of people who like do relate to you, or like where you do fit in and stuff. But that takes like, I've been here for almost 10 years, right? So it takes a long time. And I think some people will give up halfway and some people will keep trying more and more. No, I definitely get what you're getting at. Like, I think it's really... Maybe a part of it is that like recognizing that you're such an outsider that you have to make up for it. And I don't know if that's like unconscious, that it's like, oh, you're so like not the main, like the typical person in society. So maybe you try to like learn, like be like, look, I can learn all of these like traditional things and everything. But at least for me, like the queer experience in Tokyo is interesting because Tokyo, I think I talked about it when I first came to the podcast, but like Tokyo is really open in terms of how you express your like style. So like, you know, men, there's lots of different styles for men and stuff. So like when I first came to Japan, I felt like it was very open. But then you realize like, oh, the openness really extends mostly to that. Right. And then also there's a layer of like, if you're a foreigner, you have like different expectations than a Japanese person. So for a Japanese person, I think it's very hard. Especially if you're growing up in the countryside of Japan, where it's like really everyone has to be the same. And there's like one way of being things. Like in Tokyo, you can be like a fashionable person, but even being fashionable in the countryside of Japan is not a thing. You know? And then I think like when you go to the queer areas of Tokyo, historically they were founded mostly by gay men because in the 50s, 60s, post-war, they were the ones who were working and had jobs. So they built bars for themselves, which, I mean, it's fine, it makes sense. But it creates a very like mask for mask. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Mask for mask energy in these areas, which, for example, for me, I was always a very feminine person, even pre-transition and everything. And I was like trying really hard to, I don't know, like I was really fighting when I came to Japan because it was like I could finally let free my like creativity and my like fashion sense because I was in a fashionable city and also away from home. So I wanted to do that. But at the same time, I felt like the more I did that, the less people were interested in me because I was becoming more feminine. So then I was like, okay, I have to like butch it up. I have to cut my hair and everything. Otherwise, I won't get a partner. So all of these things take place in, I think, any queer space. But I think in Tokyo, especially in like, for example, areas like Nichome, you have bars that are like dedicated to specific body types, specific hair types, specific things. Like it's like this is a bears only, which means like very big, hairy, and muscular. Or there's like this is a bar for people for like cute, like how to say, like not even cute guys, but like typical men. Like you're a salary man, which means you're not allowed to have like bangs. So even if you have bangs, it was like, no, you can't go in because that's too feminine. Like you really have to be like Shinagawa like guy, right?
Oh.
So it was like, oh, like what's my box? You know, like looking for it. And I think that's something that in Japan, queerness is not. Queerness has been present since forever in Japan, and I guess because of this. But in the late 20th century, early 21st century, then it kind of got boxed into very, like, you know, Japan likes to make boxes. Yeah. And they're like, okay, queer people, all right, you're A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And like, this is your box kind of thing. Instead of like, in the past, I think it was more fluid.
Yeah.
Like, in the bad way, there wasn't words to explain it. Right. In the good way, you didn't have to explain it, right?
Right, right.
So fighting with that was very hard.
Yeah.
And then it was very hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I finally realized I was trans and started doing this, it became really easy. So when you finally find your box, it's kind of easy. So it's like I'm uncomfortable with the fact that recognizing myself as trans made me like kind of be able to like okay, I know which box I am. I know which bars I can go to. I know which bars I'll go to where there'll be people who want to talk to people like me and stuff. Yeah. So it becomes so much easier. But at the same time, I'm like, like you're really in the box now, ne?
Yeah, so. Yeah. It's very contradictive.
Yeah. Which I think is like natural, you know?
It's very natural. But earlier, so to me, I always feel very inspired by the whole queer community in a way that you found the essence of being fluid. And I think it's very important because it beyond sexuality. That's just the thing. It's fluid, right? And boxes, as you mentioned, like, from my point of view, it's made for people who can't understand, want to understand in their own limited knowledge or concept. But since we have layers, we're all onions, it's very hard to put a person into a specific box and then call it a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I also get when you say, eventually when you realize which box you're in, you kind of feel relieved because
it's a
sense of clarity. You'll be like, oh, now I know what I signed up for, and then now I know. Yeah, so that's also very interesting to hear from different people in a different story. Like we kind of start to sink in that way to be like, okay,
I think it's, for example, it might be different if we're talking specifically about the queer community. It might be different if you're because there's a really big queer community in Tokyo. This is very small but present queer community. Yeah. That's like made up of a lot of like international people who are very aware of like the queer movement and like you know like I say fluidity and everything, like not putting each other in boxes and everything. Yeah. And there are Japanese people who will like mix in there and like you know create the community with it. But if you're jumping into like the like typical Japanese environment, that's really really rare.
Yeah.
You know? So I think it's like. It's not that it doesn't exist here, and I guess they like, but they kind of exist in like parallel worlds a bit.
Ooh,
and I think it comes because Japan has such a history of like, for example, you have, you know, before trans people in Japan, you have the word like new hafu, which is like new and half, so it's like you're half man, half woman kind of thing, and that's like associated with like burlesque shows and like you know these like bars in Shinjuku where you go meet these new hafu, right? So when someone is like feminine or like trans adjacent, they'll automatically assume you're trying to become like a woman. Whereas like a lot of people are happy just being like non-binary or in between, right? Yeah. But this in-between state isn't that popular or that common in typical Japanese culture, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's another thing I'm actually curious about. I want to ask you is few things. But first is I'm always wonder because my very limited minded perceptions is that I also have an impression of when I go to Nichome, I feel like there are a lot of foreigners, so a lot of foreign faces, right? And I always wonder that is that helping the community or is that gonna backfire the community just because would it actually provoke people to put in the community into a box even more and separate it, or people are gonna be more open to it
Yeah.
in a way.
I think, especially for Nichome, I mean, tourism in Japan right now is really growing. So I think there's more and more bars that are catering to international people.
Yeah.
And up to now, a lot of them have been like, you have like your typical bars that every foreign person goes to. And they're usually what you think of like a club, right? Or like a bar. And then you have the Japanese ones that are more like a snack. So it's like a really small shop, and you have the mama-san, you know, who's the owner of the restaurant, and like maybe like 5 or 10 seats, right? And I think just naturally, a person who doesn't know which bar to go into will find it very hard to go into one randomly. Same, I think, like people will know, like, I don't know, Golden Guy, right? Like it's like you really have to like research which bar you go into and like be like, oh, this is the one bar I want to go to. So unless you do that, it's really hard to find your place in Shinjuku, which means that naturally you'll just end up going to like the big foreigner bar that's like on the corner that everyone goes to, right? It's like easy. Sometimes there's not a cover charge or anything, like you can just go in. But I know a lot of Japanese people, like bar owners. I was performing at an event yesterday as a drag queen, and the organizer was like really working to like mix Japanese and foreign audiences together, because like the communities should talk to each other, not really be separate. So I think it's like it's a problem that's very real. But I think there's people who are working to make it better. I don't know if more people coming from abroad really changes things too much, but I do think it's interesting that it would be cool if there's more areas where you can have queer experiences. Like right now there's a few places in Shibuya, there's a few places in Koenji, a few places in Nakano, also the east side like Nippori and Ueno have like some queer bars and stuff. So I think because maybe like Nichome is so saturated because it's a small block, then you have like new different types of queer spaces happening. So yeah, I don't know. But I also think like it's really cool to have these spaces outside of like Nichome, because like you would never think to go to Nichome unless it was like you came for like my drag show, right? But it's like, why? It's like if there's like 10 cafes to go to, why not just go? Like, what makes a queer cafe not an option in your cafe to go to, right? You know,
exactly. That's why sometimes I feel like I really wish society as a whole, or like a culture as a whole, can be more fluid, because then you stop to think too much of it. It's like it doesn't have to be just in that one area. Just like you don't have to. Nobody would think like if I want Chinese food, I have to go to Chinatown anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the same.
Thing everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah, and then you don't think too much of it. Yeah.
The thing though, like the backside of that is the fact that Nichome is such a insular community means that most people know that straight people will not come, which means that when they're in that small neighborhood, if you're not out, chances are you won't bump into your straight colleagues or your straight.
It's a safe space.
It's a safe space, right? So the insular part is both not positive and negative, but also kind of like, we shouldn't have to like hide ourselves ultimately, but it's like it's a band-aid. You know, like you ultimately, it's like shogunai. Like you have to hide it, but it shouldn't be this way. But well, you're just gonna like.
I feel like it's always. I don't want to say it's ignorant of me, but more like I'm privileged to keep thinking or being like, you shouldn't hide yourself, right? And I think that's a very Western way of thinking things, and then especially coming from the States, that's everyone's about me.
This is me.
Yeah. Yeah. But coming here, I'm always also wondering, and I want to ask you about this, is like, because you mentioned it's also sometimes it's very important to have that safe space, and then you don't have to worry about how you're gonna run into your coworker
or be perceived by straight people.
How's that experience like, or how is that affecting the community here, or how people view their identity differently, do you think?
I can't speak for everybody, but I think in a culture where most people will be salarymen, employees at a company, I think a lot of them, and this, like I've spoken to some of these men, and they will, I'm talking about men because it's like a gay area mostly, and it's what I've heard, but I think they are satisfied with just living as themselves 2 days a week, you know, Friday night and Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's like Monday to Friday, you're this like character for your company. You're
Yeah.
a straight man. You come home, no one sees you, or you live with your partner or whatever, but it's like your own space.
Yeah.
And then 2 days of the week, you can go and actually be yourself.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and Monday you start. And I think that's maybe the reason why, I think like if you take the gay or queer side out of it, I think that's the expectation of everyone in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I think that's why there's such a big drinking culture as well, right? It's like
Yeah.
you have to really fit into the box, you know,
Yeah.
of whatever job you're going to or whatever environment.
Yeah.
Even if it's like traditional, like if you want to be like I don't know, like a tea ceremony like
Yeah.
teacher, right? You really have to become that person. And then on your time off, like where no one can see you in your little space, you can like let go, let
Yeah.
loose. So it's a very like contract and explode and explode culture.
Yeah.
And I guess if like that's all, if that's what you've known, if that's how you understand yourself of being like, of experiencing life, then maybe it's, you don't have, like, I don't know, maybe coming out isn't that big of a deal because these people don't, I've asked them and like, no, I'm not really interested in coming out. Like, there's no point of it. Like, why would I create like
Interesting. Yeah.
issues in my work environment or
Yeah.
like, it's like my work is my work and everything.
Yeah.
Like I've talked, there's like,
Okay, so that was our episode. And if you like it, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with anyone that you feel will resonate with this content. And we have new episode every week. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.